Today, a New York State loan of nearly $14 million to the city of Dunkirk is getting mixed reaction. We're told that loan has a 7.5% interest rate, and it would cost the taxpayers of Dunkirk nearly $10 million in interest over that 15-year agreement.
We're now joined by State Senator George Borrello, who is against this loan. Senator, thank you for joining us.
It's good to be on with you. Thank you.
Yeah, so the city's mayor is in favor of this loan, saying it is a lifeline that they've been needing. You disagree. Explain why.
Well, first of all, she's probably the only person in favor of it. The city council is not in favor. In fact, the bill that was carried by legislators from New York City, who'd never actually set foot in the city of Dunkirk, introduced this bill bypassing the requirement of a home rule message from the local legislature, the city council. So that tells you how popular this idea is. But probably the most troubling thing about this is that we passed the Dunkirk Fiscal Recovery Act a year ago in the last session, which would have given them the ability to access $18.5 million. The requirements were oversight from the state comptroller's office. And over the last year, the state comptroller's office has been unable to get any information to do things like certify the debt and anything else to be able to give the city the ability to bond. The city has really been silent, has not asked for any help from the comptroller's office. I published a letter that the city had received from the comptroller's office, along with the fact that they couldn't even get basic financials. You'll note that back in March, I believe, the city treasurer's office was roped off like a crime scene. And one of the former city employees has been indicted for embezzlement, and yet there has been absolutely zero accountability, zero investigation into previous actions, and instead what I refer to as the Kathy Hochul loan shark bill at a 7.5% interest rate, on top of the fact that they were going to give up $1.5 million in necessary AIM funding revenue from the state in order to secure that loan. So you're going to reduce revenue and increase debt without any accountability. And that's why it's such an incredibly irresponsible thing to do.
Senator, how do you pair what the city is trying to do now with this loan versus, of course, the control board, which at this point is not their option? But how do you pair what they're doing now, what they're going through now, with what you just explained happened to the controller's office in March, with the proposed 84% property tax hike that now residents in Dunkirk have to deal with? How do you put that all into a package and serve it to residents, serve it to voters?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that because you had, as you mentioned, 84% property tax increase. And let me tell you about the city of Dunkirk. It is about 12,000 people. That 25% of that population lives in poverty. About 50%, actually more than 50%, are ethnic minorities. 20% of people don't speak English in their household. And yet, despite that, about 2/3 of city residents actually own their home. So they're directly getting impacted by this massive property tax increase. The average income, family income, in the city of Dunkirk is $49,000 a year. They cannot afford this massive increase. With another one on the horizon, I don't see any other choice but another double-digit increase just to cover the revenue loss from this loan guarantee from the governor. Meanwhile, you have the governor throwing money around everywhere. We just gave the Rochester City School District $125 million that was not budgeted for them to, right their ship in the city of Rochester, and countless other examples that I can give of money being thrown around, making it rain everywhere else, but it's pouring right now in the city of Dunkirk, and the governor's offered nothing except her payday loan scheme.
All right, let's talk about AIM funding. You mentioned that briefly. What exactly is that, and why is this loan foregoing that money to the city of Dunkirk now?
Well, because obviously the governor's office knows that if they do what we did, the city isn't going to pay the loan back. So instead, they're withholding necessary funding. So explain, AIM is it's aid and incentives to municipalities. It's something that all small municipalities across New York State get. It's $1.5 million, which doesn't sound like much money. However, the entire tax levy in the city of Dunkirk, even after the 84% tax increase, is still only $9.7 million. They're going to give up $1.5 million in revenue in a city that only can bring in $9.7 million in property tax revenue. So this is absolutely irresponsible. A control board could have actually bonded, which is something the city of Dunkirk cannot do. It had a triple B- rating, and now it's actually been delisted. They cannot issue bond notes anymore because of the irresponsible fiscal policies there. A control board could have been able to issue those bonds, and I would have expected as part of that a bridge loan from the state until the control board was up and running. That is the responsible path for the people of the city of Dunkirk.
I want to hear a little bit more about that control board, but I do want to, we asked the mayor of Dunkirk, Kate Dowiaz, to comment on everything that's been going on. She said, quote, "It is a responsible and strategic tool," she's talking about this loan, "that allows the city of Dunkirk to restructure existing debt and avoid a financial collapse." She goes on to say, quote, "The proposed refinancing does not create new debt." She says it allows us to restructure existing obligations over a longer term. Of course, Senator Borrello, you just explained why that would be a costly move. I'm curious about this control board. We have familiarity with it here in the Queen City. The city of Buffalo has a control board. Would it mirror what people are familiar with here in Erie County? Would your plan, your proposal, mirror what we're used to up here?
Actually, my plan was more based on one in Nassau County that was actually instituted by Tom DiNapoli, the comptroller, back when he was actually a state legislator. He was the assemblyman from Nassau County. And it is a little different than the city of Buffalo. But even when the city of Buffalo, this was instituted many years ago, and although the city is certainly not in the best financial shape right now, back in the early days when this control board had more control, when it was a hard control board, they were actually be able to build back up the city's reserves, reduce its debt, increase its bond rating. So even though right now that control board might not look all that great, when it was a hard control board, a more strict control board, they were able to right the ship even in the city of Buffalo, and very much so in the county of Nassau as well, which is more what my proposal is based on.
All right, Senator Borrello, thank you so much for joining us. That's all the time we have.
Thank you.